My name is Michael. I've been absolutely fascinated by tabletop role-playing games for the better part of my life, and I am currently in the middle of building a new studio that I will be occupying for some time. I know, we're off to a bad start. This is different. Regular content will resume shortly. We're gonna get there, but this is important. Evil Hat Productions is coming out with not one but two new Monster of the Week books, the Slayer Survival Kit and the Hunter's Journal. I'm very excited about these things. They have already released a preview that's like 90 something pages. It's crazy. You can go see a lot of new content. They're going to be dropping a Kickstarter campaign or a GoFundMe. I'm not sure which one. They're going to be crowdfunding starting the day this video releases. And this is very cool. So I got a chance to sit down with Luke Green, known far and wide on the internet as Thrythlind, and I got to ask him some exclusive questions about the new content coming out from Evil Hat Productions. And he was gracious enough to open up and spill some insight and some new information that's not in the previews, which makes me feel very special. Anyway, this is that interview. We sat down for about an hour. You'll know I did not cut much out. Where it's pretty much there's a lot of cuts, but not like all the contents. It's meaty. I know not a lot of stuff made it to the cutting room floor, which is fun. If you like long form things, just sit back and listen and enjoy and have a good time, because this was a great conversation. I learned a lot of cool things. Luke is a very gracious and knowledgeable gamer, and yeah, we're gonna have fun. It's fun. So without further ado, welcome to Roll With Me. So how did you first get involved with Monster of the Week?
So that goes back to around back when it was still on Google Plus Hangouts.
Okay.
I picked up Monster of the Week in 2014 or 2015, one of those. I was in Japan at the time. And I love urban fantasy. Urban fantasy is my jam. I have most of the urban fantasy RPGs that are out. I am constantly bemoaning the lack of a CRPG that's urban fantasy. But anyway, I picked it up and I on my Christmas vacation where I went to go back to the States. I ran a one shot based off Fate Stay Night. With a little bit of mix of Tournament of the Dragon from Hero System Champions. And then I started creating a character from my City of Heroes thing, which was a teenage Gorgon. And I was like, I could make her if I mixed mundane and monstrous together, but I didn't want to make her later. Because to get those story points, it would have to be those bits from those two playbooks. And I was like, that would be like an experienced character to recreate a starting point. And I didn't want to do that. So I started creating the Changeling, which was, you were never human. You thought you were, but you were never human. And I got Mike Sands, and the hangout was there, and I got in contact with Mike Sands, and he helped me go through and make the first version. And that was up on my drive-through. It was my bestseller for years, for like $1 a piece, or when it was free, people would snap it up. And it mysteriously vanished from my drive-through about 2 years ago. I wonder why. And then he put out the call for Tome of Mysteries, so I was in on that. I thought it was just going to be a mystery thing. If I had known it was going to be playbooks too, the Changeling would have been in that.
Right.
I don't know if it would have been accepted, but I would have submitted it at the very least. And I have two mysteries in Tome of Mysteries, which are Arachnogenesis and Crystal Assassin.
You have this way of subverting expectations with your work, with your characters and your mysteries. See, well, I mean, everybody's right. It is an incredibly powerful device that can be used to make narrative magic.
Yeah.
And you seem to have a really good grasp on that.
I deliberately do it. I've run across the people that complain like the TV tropes page existing because it makes people just turn out, formulaic things. Like that's not what you use it for. You study it so you know what people expect, so you know how you can come at it from different angles and mix things and remix things.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it's kind of a deliberate choice on my thing. So I guess I shouldn't be surprised people say it, but I always am. Those two were actually mysteries from my first series, which was the MCOMS campaign, which you can find my reports on my blogger somewhere. That's still sitting around. It's not an active website, but it's still got a bunch of stuff on it.
Cool.
I just I'll do Tome and I'll just take their second mystery and the mid-season finale, and I just developed those out and got them in. And then later, I had there were a lot of people that I would see in conversations like you would get misunderstandings like it seems weird that the monster's not doing anything until the players do. It's like that's not the way it works. The monster's always doing stuff. It's just dice only get involved until the players do something.
Right. Stuff's always happening.
Yeah. And I also had an idea that like there's some stuff missing from the Chosen. Like if you look at the ratings, they can very much be a support back ranked character, but you then you take a look at the big signature weapon. It's like is a weapon, and so I was like I wanted, and then it was leaving out certain other things like character like Winona Earp with her magic gun is definitely a Chosen, and it's just like work on that a little bit and some other things, and I started like oh I kind of want to give a bunch of advice articles, and I'll get some mechanics to spice that up. And I started doing a bunch of different advice on the different playbooks, and I hit pararomantic, which is at the time I've reframed my thought on it now, but at the time it was very Twilight and very much this is the mechanical form of a toxic relationship, and I just did not want. So when I was writing advice on it, I was uncertain whether I had to rethink of it to get good advice. And I was like uncertain. So I showed some friends, and I also wanted to reach out to the person who wrote Pararomantic, which I never managed actually to do. So I reached out on the old Tome of Mysteries, Slack, which is almost dead. Got a hold of Sophie Legla. I'm butchering that name. One of the evil hat people that was still on there. And linked her into the stuff, and eventually got directed back to Mike Sands again. He wasn't initially really interested, but he put me together with Merrick, and Merrick has the idea with the Hunter stories. So Merrick, which to be honest, Merrick's Hunter stories are the gem of these two. I do a lot of general advice for people talking about working with the game, doing home brewing advice and all that. And I've made most of the new playbooks. So
that's very exciting.
But the Hunter stories are so fun. They are so fun.
Okay, so let's get into this a little bit.
Yeah.
So obviously it's been announced, right? Where it's out. It's officially out.
Oh yeah, there's a free preview out at the time of this recording.
Right,
yeah.
right. So hey, it's me from the thing that you just watched. Or are still watching, depending on where I place this in the video. I just want to talk about a couple of things real quick. Over the last couple of years, I've gone through a lot of significant life changes that have kept me from making regular content for this channel. And that's really regrettable because I love talking about gaming, and I love this little community that we've sort of built here together. And that said, I want to thank all of the people who have continued to like and subscribe and comment on the videos and the channel. In my absence. It is really heartwarming and unexpected, and y'all are the best. Thank you so much. Also, in that time that I've been away, I've been making a lot of music. I started a record company called MOSFET Records. You can check out my website on the internet where websites are commonly found. I've got a bunch of new merch that I'm working on coming out with, tour schedule and live performances and graphic design and media management. There's all sorts of stuff going on there. So if you enjoy cool stuff and cool art and cool music, then head to mossfootrecords.com and check out what I got. And maybe consider donating to the Patreon so that I can continue to make more content and make content more regularly. Yeah, and otherwise just, like and subscribe and comment and keep doing what you're doing and reach out. And, I love talking about it. So let's talk about it. We know that there's some cool new stuff happening in the world of Monster of the Week. How much can we get into today?
We can definitely go in deep on the ones that are definitely public.
Mm-hmm.
And I can, I won't give like full mechanics on any of the other things, but I can give you some good wide brush of like some of the advice articles that I have in there that didn't get in there. I definitely think that given you're probably better read on occult than I am, you'd probably be interested in my take on advice on how to do big magic.
I would very much like that, because I'm currently working on a magic system of my own to implement in Monster of the West. So, yeah, I would love to hear your take.
When you were talking about subverting expectations, if you'll see on the table of contents, there's a thing there called paranormal personas.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like addressing the fact that just because you're non-human doesn't mean you have to take one of the playbooks that is expressly non-human.
Yeah, I love that.
So my big example for that is the show Wednesday.
Yeah.
If you were to play Edie, what playbook do you think she'd be?
It's not the monstrous.
I mean, she is a werewolf.
She
has superhuman strength, but she's not the monstrous.
She's not the monstrous. I mean, she's kind of the mundane.
That's my take as well.
Yeah.
And she's very much into, I want a life. I'm being pressured by my family into this other thing, but I just want to be a teenager and do teenager things.
She just happens to be a werewolf.
Yeah. And so, Edie is very much a mundane.
Yeah.
The Siren Lady, most of those kids are bystanders. They have very minor powers that aren't going to help them much in a crisis, if for no other reason than because they've never thought about how to use them in a crisis.
Right. Right.
I have a list of 3 samples, and one's based on Elvira, one's based on Edie, and one's based on the Siren chick from Wednesday.
Incredible.
The big magic thing breaks down into the different kinds of scales of big magic, because sometimes when you're doing big magic, it's because it's a tactical decision. You have something you want to do that's big, you need it to last more than 30 minutes or affect more than a couple of people. So you need to do big magic instead of use magic.
Right.
Because like if you try to banish something, that'll give you 30 minutes unless it's like a minion or a very minor passing curse.
Sure.
It'll give you some breathing room, because by default, use magic only lasts 30 minutes.
Yes.
And it could last less.
Yes.
And then you go up another scale, so it's just climactic, where big magic is the solution for that mystery.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start getting into the even bigger scale, which is where you start getting hunters being proactive with their magic.
Sure.
Such as, we captured this Hummer from the Intergalactic Corporation last mystery. I'd like to enchant it to go into the between, like my supernatural travel move I have.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and like, what about like wards and glyphs?
Permanent wards. Yeah, permanent wards. Like that is another thing you've read, because the level up one is public.
Yep.
You've noticed that it is possible in Monster of the Week to get level ups without experience, because you have to earn them in gameplay.
Yes.
Whereas if you have an experience-based level up, all of the earning it can happen off screen.
Right.
Or it can be like retroactively, it was always the case. Like recently, my 15-year-old searcher revealed she's a wereshark.
And it just always has been.
Yeah, just she never happened to use it on screen until now.
I mean, well, here's the thing. How many times have we seen our favorite supernatural dramas, our favorite paranormal media retcon the most random shit?
Or even foreshadow it.
Yeah.
and just don't reveal it until like 4 or 5 episodes in.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's perfectly natural.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could use like big magic to do something like get the effect of protective wards for a haven, whereas otherwise the other way to get it is to level up and choose it as one of your options as for a haven.
I really like that because we're now receiving more ways to get to the same goals that we've had, which is
Yeah.
really cool. I think that is something that's been really lacking in the game, and not to besmirch the name of Monster because it's my favorite game of all time, but that is something that I didn't know I needed until I guess right now.
Most of the improvements for Monster of the Week have been that way. I didn't know I needed team books. I also love it. Team books. Okay, so the supplements so far to Monster of the Week add immense value to the game, but do not increase the financial buy-in because you can still have a completely satisfying game with the first core book.
Absolutely.
And this is a mistake that, like, I'm going to point to Tasha's. As great as a supplement as it is, it increases the buy-in for D&D because to get the best use out of D&D, you have to get Tasha's. Or Fantasy Age, to get the best use of Fantasy Age, you need the companion.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop you right there. Monster of the Week is not D&D.
I know.
I don't know if
I'm
you
saying,
meant to set me up for that one, but
it works. I didn't mean to, but yeah. No, it's just that the bigger companies are the ones more likely to put out supplements that either make newbies have to spend more money to get into the game, or produce supplements that are not so good.
right.
Those are my two problems with the supplement glut we lived through in the 90s and the aughts with White Wolf and Wizard of the Coast just flooding the market.
Right.
So anyway, everything in Monster of the Week with the new supplement has been, I didn't know I needed this. This is amazing.
Right.
I did not know I needed the survivor rules in Apocrypha. I did not know I needed team books or the haunts and the villains stuff. Well, I knew villains. I was doing stuff with villains already, but I did not know I needed hunter stories until I started working on this and started play testing them.
Right. I wanted to double back just for a moment about the difference between these larger companies like Wizards and then these more independent groups that are putting out this specific material. And I have just myself recently learned how open and inclusive you all are, and how everybody is just so cool and welcoming, and when I finally put together the chutzpah to email Michael Sands.
He's an amazing.
I know. It was like immediately. It must have been like I looked at the time and I'm like, oh, he's New Zealand and but it must have been like right as he's waking up or something, and
he is. I don't know what his schedule is like. His schedule's a little bit weird. It was really fun. Was when me and Merrick initially went to him. He's a little bit suspicious of supplements, similar to me, but he was like a lot more like, I don't want supplements. That's why there wasn't a supplement for Monster of the Week for so long.
Sure.
Yeah, so he's a little bit wary, but like he directed us to Evil Hat. Evil Hat liked it and came back to Michael Sands. Michael Sands decided, oh, actually, this is really great. And one of the ways that I knew this was kind of going on is I'm at work and I'm looking at my email because all my work files with me and Merrick are working on are through my Google Drive. And I'm just watching edit, mail after mail after mail from Michael Sands, made a suggestion, made a comment, made a suggestion.
I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
Super hands-on.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Very thoughtful and considerate.
Yep. No, he's an amazing person. Made one of my 4 favorite games, and back in the big magic is I have it that the way it's going to be is the keeper will ask them to present 6 steps, the last one being the completion of the ritual. 6 steps that are the most likely where things can go wrong.
Incredible.
And then the keeper can make a mystery around it.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
That's
That's very
because
good.
because it's 6 steps, because it's day, shadows, sunset, dusk, nightfall, and then midnight or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So it basically, you ask the hunters to give you a countdown for the bad guys to interrupt.
That's fun.
And then the scale above that is where the plan is going to require multiple mysteries. So each step in the big magic is a mystery in of itself. And the big magic will be interspersed by having to deal with pausing that to go out and deal with the monster, because they're the enemies, because they're not going to sit still. So you're not going to get mystery one mystery 1 through 6 doing all your steps. It's going to be mystery 1. Oh, then we have to go and do this thing. Then step 2. And then we have to go and do this thing. Yeah,
Incredible. How very Agatha all along of you.
definitely. The two examples I gave are both examples of how to stop the monster that is really nasty.
So hit me with your
So
favorite bits that are coming
that are
coming up.
that are coming. Well, one is the mundane monstrosities, which is you're all minor supernatural characters.
Okay.
So one of the things is everybody in this team book gets a minor weirdness,
Yeah.
where they can pick something like shapeshifter or claws of the beast or the sight or a guardian, so that maybe they're not supernatural but they have a pet hellhound. But they're just folks that got pulled into hunting. That's like Wednesday, Grim, or if you want to be a little bit more lighthearted, Monster High,
Sure.
Hotel Transylvania.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to bring in the non-lethal rules from Codex, stuff like that.
Okay.
So yeah, I am definitely, there's two ways to do non-humans in urban fantasy. One is it is a manifestation of like dealing with trauma,
Mm-hmm.
and your inhumanity is your trauma. And then the other way is just to embrace how you are uniquely different from what people expect, and it's not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
And mundane monstrosity is very much that, and that's also why preternatural personas, they used to have the same name. Paranatural personas is also an output of that. I just want to be me, and me is just not human, that kind of thing.
I think we all feel like that sometimes.
Yeah, there is so much of my game design that I realized after the fact is me growing up ace, arrow, neurodivergent, and not knowing it, or speaking it out loud until I was in my 40s.
Preach, brother. Preach. But late 20s for me.
Yeah. Another one that the one that is public now, the team playbook that is public now, is the Coven. You are a group of supernatural creatures that have made an oath to defend people from evil. This is like Charmed
Yeah.
or Gargoyles.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
gargoyles. Ooh, right in
yeah.
the feels, brother.
The entire thing is you would get into conversations sometimes where people would say, "What if we all want to be vampires?" And I was like, that is true. What if you all want to be? And that started me on this whole thing. And then I did the mundane monstrosities, but I also did Coven. And we have Mike Sands has the good monsters, which is more like being human,
Mm-hmm.
where you're all some form of monstrous.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the monstrous playbook itself is off the table, but everybody has a monstrous thing and can take from monstrous play moves.
Cool. I really like that. I really
Yeah.
like that a lot.
The what I did with Coven, it's a very much, that's the one we play tested, very much a high powered one, is it's designed so that everybody can be the same thing and take the same benefits
Mm-hmm.
if they want, or they can be eclectic, which is what my play testers did. But it's like you choose a either a monster natural weapon or move and a curse, a spooky move and some dark side,
Mm-hmm.
some hex rotes and a temptation,
Mm.
or some changeling moves, a changeling move and unknown heritage, which is that. And so each player can choose one of those. So if you wanted a party full of harpies, you could all take flight and something else.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
yeah. And That particular thing is called Mark of Kinship.
Mm.
And then the 5 moves you can choose from are things like Bound in Blood, where you can take a harm to do help out with someone else on the team, no matter how far away you are.
I like that. I like that a
Uh,
lot.
Another one you might like is Bell, Book, and Candle. Every
Oh,
member of the coven is the equivalent of 3 people when participating in big magic or use magic.
amazing. Amazing. That's really
Yeah.
cool. Significance to the number 3?
Not particularly. I felt it was. I mean, 3 is a power number.
Yeah.
I am not particularly well read in cult. Most of mine is pop culture
Okay.
and Catholic upbringing. But other things that are public, the new options for the chosen weapons,
Mm.
the new curses for the monstrous, new moves for the monstrous, new natural weapon options for the monstrous,
Let's talk about that. What are the new natural weapon options for the monstrous?
new natural attack options, a base energy. Then we have a whole bunch of extras. Mark, you can track the victim later.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Poison, victim becomes unstable.
Mm. Mm.
Petrification, victim turns to stone.
That okay? Wait, hold on. Let's
That's
address
going to
that.
be that's probably going. I did not suggest that one. Actually, that was Mike Sands. My assumption is when they hit when they hit 0 harm, instead of leaving a corpse, they leave a statue.
That I'm into. That I'm into.
Yeah,
Instant petrification would be a little OP and
yeah,
probably what everybody would choose all of the
yeah.
time.
No, yeah, yeah. No. I would not do it that way. Infection, victim is infected with a disease or parasite. And material, specify types such as iron teeth or wooden claws.
Mm. Hmm. Or wooden.
So, like if you're doing a dryad or
Oh.
a leshy.
Oh. Oh God. Oh, so thoughtful. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We reprinted some of the stuff that came from Codex of the World's Bone Spear thing, like Shadow Sight, Wild Language got reprinted.
Mm-hmm.
The Duty Curse got reprinted. Some of the other new curses, there's Inimical, which is I made for Gorgons. There is
Oh.
something about you that is that makes your presence dangerous to other people. So you have to act under pressure to prevent hurting people around you.
That is incredible. That is narrative gold is what that is.
Mm-hmm. And then there are 3 curses that you can only take if you take a connected move. Like Spirit, incorporeal. You are always incorporeal. You have to act under pressure to manifest physically enough to
Oh, snap. Neat.
obligations that you have a penchant for making deals, but if you break your deals, that means everybody you've made deals with may come calling.
These are brutal.
Um,
These are very serious.
and the last one is a little bit more mild. It's force change, which connects to shape changer. Obligation needs dark negotiator, by the way. So force change would be, I did not do the werewolf example. I did a like Jorogumo type thing, but I didn't do the actual myths of the yokai. I thought about Itsy Bitsy Spider.
Mm.
So, and I initially said keys, music in minor tones, but we were worried it wouldn't be sure of what that meant. So we
Mm-hmm.
put melancholy music.
Mm.
So the example, there's like a couple, like 6 new breeds examples, and the spider folk is one of those. And their curse is force change. That if you play melancholy music around them, they are forced to change back into a spider folk.
I really like that. I really like that.
Yeah,
Oh, this is so exciting.
yeah.
Oh.
And then the chosen options, again, these are public now. Is there's new base forms like rifle or bow. pistol, book, tool, and shield.
Okay.
Each of the playbooks has a little bit of of things from me about advice on how to play it. Both this is the upfront thing, and this is the way to subvert things a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
They're usually very short because we work to get the word count down because I tend to be wordy.
Oh, me too.
And then there's a list of like 3 to 4 principles for the keeper when you have this in your party, the things to do when to add to your keeper principles when you have this particular playbook in your party. And then each one has 2 example hunter stories from Merrick's new rules.
Mm-hmm.
And then the business ends, the new ones are blessed, so you add holy, elemental to add an elemental effect, distant to add the far range,
Sure.
melee to add the hand range, tiny to add intimate range, spectacular which is increased harm and loud, electric which is increased harm and battery which is like reload, cursed which is +1 harm and curse, focus gives you a +1 forward on your first weird move at each new location. Empowered fulfills a requirement for big magic.
Oh.
Sapient has a mind of its own, counts as an ally.
I love all of these.
And then versatile, add useful.
I like that. I really like that there's a healthy blend of things that are mechanically advantageous and things that are narratively advantageous.
Yeah, I definitely think that's important for a game like Monster of the Week.
Yeah.
There's also more example materials. One of those is one of my suggestions, which is one of your own bones.
Of course it is. Of course it's one of your own bones. For sure.
The expert is also getting New Haven options. Some of those are to get more sci-fi stuff in there as well. I would also say that choosing sapient for your chosen weapon is not the only way to get an intelligent magic item, because one of the new playbooks is the Forged, which is you are a sapient magic item that can become human.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's pretty special. Yeah, we talked about that one a few weeks ago.
Yeah. I've done another interview and we went over the playbooks, but the thing I did not go over, because at the time they weren't public at the list, is the new weird moves. And while they only released 3 of them, they did release the table of contents, and you can look at the ones there. Which ones would you think we would like to talk about first?
Oh boy, Tradecraft is what I want to talk about first.
Tradecraft is inspired by watching the Storyteller Squad, and one of their characters is a professional. And at some point, the keeper just said, I'm going to have you roll weird for that because you're a secret agent and that is your weird thing.
Cool.
So Mike Sands is of the opinion that anything that's a weird move needs to be innately supernatural or weird. That's like the hacking move is not just what a normal hacker would do with Sharp. It is more like what the 80s and 90s people thought hackers could do.
Right, put on the Nintendo Power Glove and
yeah. But Tradecraft we cut down to. So have you played Hitman?
I haven't.
Or like Arkham Asylum?
Sure. Yeah. Yep.
You know how you can put on detective mode and it highlights lots of things?
Yeah, everybody's doing that these days.
So that's what Tradecraft is you have an instinct for objectives and espionage.
Very cool.
It could be as simple as you have cybernetic HUD implanted, or it could be a psychic awareness like in Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
The Mundane in my play test took it, and we explained it by the idea that she was an upgraded bystander. They rescued this girl, and then I want a new hunter. Can we make that girl that we haven't named yet the new hunter? Sure. And she had survived a brush with a god of entropy, and so she just saw where points of chaos
Excellent. Excellent.
And it is one of my examples in the home on how to homebrew. It is an example of how to address when a move is going to overlap things like a playbook or a moves like always prepare or the man with the plan or whatever. And so one of the ways I do it is that it doesn't assume like a flashback. It gives you information of here's an opportunity that you can follow up on.
Mm-hmm.
So it provides you information like a contact that might be useful, or a cache of gear that might be able to. And if you roll poorly, it might be a little bit dicey to get to. It's like, oh, hey, that doesn't actually belong to me, but they don't need to know.
I love that. I love that. So we're really redefining. Well, not even redefining. We're just sort of clarifying what weird means, and it's a much broader concept than has been previously sort of implied.
Yeah, as long as, especially when you start bringing in sci-fi, because Monster of the Week can handle anything that is investigative action horror.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you're doing a lot of investigation and it's a very action-focused game, it can fit to a lot of different set dressings.
Right.
So, and then the weird is very deliberately more narratively broad, and you're going to narrow it down for your individual game.
Mm-hmm.
Like setting up a space game with my brother and housemate and niece and nephew, and we was like, well, how much magic do we want in this game? It's like, I don't think we want magic. We want psionics, alien tech. And so, okay, so these moves are off the table.
Mm-hmm. I love this sort of reframing of weird, because it is when I started working on Monster of the West. I had to come up with my own fun, Old West names for the moves. And every time I tried to re-flavor weird, I couldn't.
There's a paradigm shift that needs to happen.
Yeah. It's weird is weird though. Weird is weird.
Yeah. It took me forever to break out of like D&D and Hero System into narrative games. Hero System is kind of narrative in the way it's effect based, and you define how it does its damage and whatever. So that starting with Hero System gave me a lead up. If I had started with D&D, but it took me like 2.5 campaigns of Fate to really get narrative, because before that paradigm shift just happened.
Yeah. I started on 3.5. 3.5 was my first foray into D&D.
I don't dislike the idea of 3.5. I dislike the dishonesty in which they designed it and made some of the options deliberately worse than others.
I agree. I still think it's better than 4.
4 has got some champions now. It's actually a better game than it got the impression of at the time. I think it was very poorly handled.
Okay. Yeah, I did. We did a 3.5 campaign for a while, and then 4, and then went back to 3.5, and then 5th edition came out, and that consumed my life.
They tried to market 4 as if it was a continuation of the same type of gameplay as 3.5, and that massively harmed its potential.
I would agree with that.
Because it needs to be a different type of player.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I was playing Pathfinder, and I just found everything so crunchy, just so.
Pathfinder was a valiant attempt.
Oh, they tried.
Pathfinder 2 is better, but it's still very crunchy.
It's so crunchy. And then discovered Monster of the Week actually through the McElroy Brothers podcast, The Adventure Zone.
I was so nervous about Monster of the Week because I'd been in Fate in a while and the other narrative games, and it was like, this one's looks like a class-based game. I don't know. And then I started actually reading it. It's like, no, this is actually really good. This is my sweet spot of mechanics. This is my sweet spot of crunch and narrative. Thank you. This is all the railings I want and all the narrative flex I need.
Absolutely. I want to talk about warding.
Warding is, so some of these I did as like expansions on some of the use magic options. And warding, it doesn't completely replace because it doesn't quite bar an entry. The way warding works is there are 3 base options you take. You can like protect a person. You can make an area uncomfortable for specific types of creatures, or you can suppress an existing effect for a few moments.
Cool. Can we talk about the centipede host a little bit?
Okay, so this is another thing that I made as an example
Oh no.
because I talked about basic weird moves and then I talked about custom weird moves,
Yeah.
where custom weird moves are by their nature more character focused. They're not necessarily intended to be taken broadly or by anybody. They are like, the example I have is if you watch the Storyteller Squad again, one of their characters has a unique thing she does where she summons spirits through a tarot deck, and they will either buff her like she has a magical girl transformation, or they will be an ally that fights with her. And so that is a very that character specific thing. It's not going to fit everybody. And I wanted an example of building such things. So I took this concept I have from a fake campaign years ago, which was focused around different types of immortals. And one of the characters was a demon, and the idea of demons on that is they're kind of unhooked in time and they're a little bit cloudy on what is normal reality. So they took a power where they could permanently enhance somebody to give them minor abilities increase, like give them an aspect. And I said, okay, cool. We're going to make a downside of that every time you do that, I also give them an enhancement.
Brutal.
And the first time they used it, they enhanced their maid servant. I was like, okay, you gave her some basic improved physical condition to protect her, and also she can cause a centipede to erupt from her body. I don't know why.
You
It
know
was
what?
what came to mind.
You know what? Why not? Why
And I was
not?
going to have it because my idea was each of the different types of immortals had impact on mortals by like empowering them and creating bloodlines and stuff like that. And so I was going to have it, if we got down to the future type things, go flash forward and back from medieval times to modern times, have cases where you could see people with the same sort of red ring around the outside of their iris. Is like, oh, that's a centipede host. That's a descendant of that one lady.
Incredible. And this, dear viewers, is a perfect example of do whatever the you want in Monster of the Week.
Yeah.
I said it years ago. I said you want to do you want were hamsters? Do it. You want aliens? Do it.
Yeah.
You want a centipede that bursts out of your chest? Do it.
There is wonderful art, and they didn't have it burst out of their chest. They have it being vomited
Oh.
and attacking like a masked slasher villain.
That is just some deep eldritch horror coming directly from a player, and that is what I love about this game.
Yep.
That's cool.
So yeah, it is in there specifically as here's an example of a very specific power that you could build that doesn't need to be as broad or general as these other ones.
Incredible. Okay, so that's very exciting. So it seems like this newest installment is bringing us a lot of expansion on what we already know, and then sort of like widening the framework of sort of what we've known before, and just giving us more and more options without overcomplicating this game.
Pretty
so
much.
Exciting.
And the hunter stories, like I said, I've been saying they're the gem. So these are kind of, I've said they you know how the luck moves are kind of like a subplot that they use the luck as a timing mechanism.
Sure.
So hunter stories are not tied to luck, but they're kind of the same sort of thing as an ongoing subplot. You enter them when the player says, I'm interested in digging into a subplot. And you either craft your own or use one of the example ones, because each of the playbooks has 2 example ones. Yep. There is an article on making your own as well to give the basic formats of the different ones that Merrick came up with. And you say, I'm going to go into this, and I'm interested in this story. I don't want to go into it. Okay, cool. And then you have story beats, and when you match the story beats, you get a benefit, like gain a hold to use like it's luck, bystander related to your story becomes an ally, stuff like that. This is all in the public. There's a bunch of different options.
Awesome.
And you go through, and this subplot has a number of threats associated with it. and it has not so much a countdown as it is. There is a countdown, but so it is going to proceed to a more specific thing. Like I believe, let's see here, what are the ones that are in the release? I believe it is the chosen, the monstrous, and the I'm going to use the monstrous because it happened in my playtest. There's one of the example ones is the misguided hunter,
Okay.
where my possessing demon decided was trying to go good after meeting the other hunters. It eventually became not a demon when the changeling built them a plant body.
Amazing.
And they were being hunted by what they wanted to be like an immortal hunter knight, and there was a changeling in the party, so I made it an unseelie fey knight. That this unseelie knight had taken it upon themselves to be a monster hunter because they did not like monsters, and so at several points throughout, they came into the story because they got sent to test the changeling, but then noticed the demon and was like, nah, that's my business thing. And you go through several points, and then you until you reach a point where you and the hunter are both happy it's resolved, and you can happy that enough that it has been resolved. In my case, two out of 300 stories that did get resolved within the playtest resolved with the threats becoming friendlies. The celebrity ended up becoming a pararomantic and dating the ghost that was haunting them,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
which was
Mm-hmm.
interesting because he couldn't see her.
Oh no. Well, you know.
They talked through a cell phone.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And the misguided hunter ended up coming on terms with it. The one that did not end friendly was the spooky getting contacted by both their dark side and a separate dark side that was interested in them, got exorcised and no longer a problem.
Incredible.
When you resolve the story, there is one of two moves that have a positive side and a negative side, and you choose one of those based on how you resolve it. So if like the misguided hunter, I think it's like if you're oh, I'm always a monster, there was one for that, or no, we've reached a bridge, there's one for that.
This is all very, very exciting. I have a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
So one,
Yeah.
it was years after Tome of Mysteries came out that I realized that it came out. So I was playing on the first book for a long, long, long time.
Yeah.
Um, and then
Mm-hmm.
only a couple of months ago, one of my viewers commented on a video of mine asking me my thoughts on the Codex of Worlds. And I didn't know it existed.
You know how I found out about Codex of Worlds?
Yeah.
This project.
So how can I better keep in touch and stay up to date on how or on the moves that Evil Hat and Monster of the Week are making?
Evil Hat keeps a newsletter to send out to people that I'm already a subscriber to. So you will get a lot of email about things like Stew Pot and Apocalypse Keys and whatever else, Thirsty Sword Lesbians. But getting onto Evil, especially since we have lost the primary social media on which TTRPGs were advertising, is no longer effective.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big blow to the TTRPG community staying connected. But getting into Evil Hat's newsletter is probably the best way. They do have a tendency to fully develop the text. I mean, granted, I found typos today that went over with Fred Hicks to say, there's some errors and some stat lines here that we need to fix. But we're pretty much fixed. We're pretty much all done. We've gone through several layers of editing, proofreading, everything. But so before they are even starting crowdfunding, it is done. pretty
Got it.
much.
Got it.
The only times there are exceptions to this, like with the Lara the Tomb Raider RPG, they did the crowdfund. It looks like they did the crowdfunding for that, or the announcement for that well in advance because they wanted to get a wider pool of play testers and stuff like that. I'm not in that project, so I don't know the reasoning. But my experience so far with Evil Hat, both involved in as a backer in past things and all that, is that they like to have their product ready to hand out as soon as the crowdfunding goes live.
Right.
So that means you won't necessarily know something's in development unless they start leaking things. And they were leaking stuff on this midway through last year.
So I'm very late to this.
No. It's not. I'm sorry. I'm still thinking of this year as last year.
Oh.
I'm already thinking. So they were leaking stuff about this around April or May. They were not. They're hinting at it being a thing coming out, and Michael Sands was making comments in interviews and stuff like that.
I see.
So no real announcement until the beginning of this month. But yeah,
Very
beginning
exciting.
of September, I should say.
As far as crowdfunding, what's the goal, and are there stretch goals? What are we looking at?
The initial goal is 50K.
Okay.
Because 2 books.
Yep.
And a lot of art.
Yes.
There are some add-ons. There's going to be Slayer's Dice, which are Metal Monster of the Week D6s. There's coins for marking unstable, modifier coins, and hold coins. There's an investigator's casebook. This is something I've been wishing existed for Monster of the Week for ages. You know those little novelty things you can get for D&D that have like a little I don't know the size of it, but it's like a character journal.
Yeah.
So there's 106 they're planning a 160-page deluxe field journal style notebook for Monster of the Week.
I need this whole.
Players.
I'm gonna be like one of your top funders because I need this whole thing.
There will be a PDF version of that, so you have the physical one inside. Those are, and then of course the past books and such. Stretch goals go up to 220, up to 200K right now, and we'll start looking at expanding at 225, which I hope we make. I saw Codex hit 213. I am of course completely anxious that it won't get up there, but
Let's hit 3. Let's hit 3.
yeah. So there are different things like ribbons for the investigator's casebook, a new elemental playbook from Mike, which I've looked at is more geared towards someone who can't attend very often or is a one-shot. It's structured differently than a lot of other playbooks. It's not as it's both more and less flexible because again, it's meant for somebody who's not going to be able to play as often, I guess, is what if I remember correctly. There's 2 playbooks by me that are hunter playbooks, which is like the Abandoned playbook, which is kind of like Newt from Aliens or Peter Pan.
Cool.
Artful Dodger. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be a kid. You can have abandonment issues as an adult.
I certainly do.
Yeah. There's on some more some more rules from Merrick, like ensemble team rules, where you have everybody does 2 hunters and just chooses which one they're going to play this mystery. Random mystery idea tables.
Okay.
This is what is seen on the planning list right now.
Cool.
So if it changes, I'm sorry.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
And another playbook by me is the Facet, which is you are a piece of something much vaster than you seem. And for some reason, you can't bring all of yourself to bear.
Oh.
I had a friend who's sadly no longer with us, and I both had different variations of this concept. And some of my other friends immediately thought, yeah, that's this character that I always do. But it's like, one of these is I have in my Divine Blood setting a thing that is in the background. It's never really important to the published stories yet, called some of the people that show up are this, though they don't mention they are or consciously are aware, is the Eternals, which is, imagine you have multi-presence across timelines.
Mm-hmm.
So normal person, if they go to a different timeline and they meet themselves, it's essentially two different people, two souls that are just very, very similar.
Yeah.
If an Eternal, unless they go very, very far away, Eternal goes over one timeline to meet themselves, it's just like right hand meeting left hand.
Cool.
But they're split across timelines, so they can't really. They can maybe, if one of them has outlived their timeline, that one can come and help. And it's not like they see the future. They remember alternate variations of this particular event. Or
That's pretty wild.
yeah.
That's pretty wild. That's pretty out there, and I'm
Yeah.
really into it.
And another one I had for this was, what if every time you died, you both reincarnated to a new body, became a ghost, and went up to heaven? All three of them. So there is a facet of you that is still you and connected to you in heaven that just gets updated every time you die. There are multitude of ghosts out there that are you. And then there's the current you that is alive.
I'm following you. I'm following you. Okay. What do we do with this?
Yeah, no, I don't know, because I came up with that because I was thinking of like, what would I play for the facet if I were to do in this world where like multiverse isn't really a thing the way my Eternal idea wouldn't work. What else would I do? Another way you can do is the typical hive mind thing. Yeah, but for some reason the facet is the facet in the abandoned. I have drafts of, but they are not play tested. So if we get to that, that'll be like Apocrypha. It'll take some time after the initial, because we'll have to do play testing and developing and editing.
Would you say that the avatar would be a facet?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
that's what comes to mind for me, is the avatar like meditating and speaking to its past lives and
Yep.
holding conference with them and
Yep. They can't all be there. It's just that one point of that one point. Yeah.
Ooh, woo, woo. Oh, this is all so very exciting. I think we have a lot here. Is there anything else specifically that you want to get to?
I will say, I mentioned on the experts, another thing that's public is new tags for agencies and sex.
Cool.
And originally they were going to be different, like these are agency tags, these are sec tags, but they just decided, nah, we're just going to, here you can take these new ones from any of them, which kind of implies you can probably take the initiate tags for the agency and back and forth, no problem. But I am just amused by this, because they were across two playbooks. We didn't put them in the playbook specific stuff. We put them in their own article.
Okay, cool.
So when we split it into two books, they're the only, this is an update to past stuff that stayed in Slayer's survival kit. Whereas the other stuff, like the monstrous, chosen, and expert updates, are in Hunter's Journal. I just think it's a little bit funny, just because of the books getting split and the way things happened is like that little like.
Sure. Wow, I have to tell you, I'm very excited to see my Monster of the Week book collection on my shelf grow. There's some really cool stuff coming down the pipeline. This is very exciting.
Really surreal to be part of a game I enjoy so much.
I bet. Oh man. Yeah. No, I'm feeling that myself to a degree of just having you and Michael looking at my stuff and being like, "Oh, okay, cool. This will be cool." Like that's insane.
And when you're just like, how would you feel about playtesting? It's like, I would love it, except for I have very limited days where I'm not already doing something. It's
Right.
like, I immediately started thinking, well, I don't do anything on Wednesday. It's like, yes, but sometimes you shop on Wednesday.
Well, that's
But
there are a lot of people in the Roll With Me Discord that are sort of
Yep.
clamoring to get into that playtest. So I'm sure we'll put together a crew.
Yep. Good luck on that, by the way. I'm
Thank you.
looking forward to seeing that.
Thank you.
Anyway, I think that about covers me geeking out over my own stuff and of Merrick stuff and just Monster of the Week in general because I love this game.
It's a great game. It's a great game. Thank you so much for doing this. I don't often do interview. I haven't done interviews since this was just an audio format many years ago, and it was it's something that I hadn't thought about doing again. But I also hadn't really expected to meet people who are writing my favorite game and be able to get in contact with them, and I did not expect them to be as gracious and kind as you are.
I mean, Evil Hat may not be not really an indie publisher because it's a little bit bigger than that now, but they still have an indie approach to things. They are still very transparent. I've heard horror stories about dealing with other companies, and it's like had none of that in this.
Incredible.
Very upfront, very friendly people.
Yeah.
Just biggest luck of getting involved with them of all the companies that are recognized. This was probably the luckiest one for me to get involved with.
Incredible. Luke, Thrythlind Green, thank you so much. Thank you for doing this. This has been a lot of fun. I'm going to cut the recording.